Hey guys, so you're blessed today because you get 2 videos in one day. So I've just done a video for my news that I got over the weekend. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I put a story up on Saturday stating that I just had some news that I was a bit blown away by. It is a trigger warning video because it's got discussion in it about various things, so if it's not your thing, you don't have to watch. But this video is less triggering, so let's get started. So the reason for this video is I went for a dynamic ultrasound yesterday down in Harley Street Clinic. Cut a very long story short, because I really don't want this video to be too long, is I went to see a genetics doctor to find out which type of EDS I had. He then referred me because of my ribs dislocating and slipping over each other to a cardiothoracic doctor based in Middlesbrough, who then decided that I needed a dynamic ultrasound done at Harley Street because I was referred from private doctor to private doctor who works for NHS to private doctor who works at Harley Street for a dynamic ultrasound. So I went there yesterday. And they basically gave me an ultrasound on both ribs, both sides of my ribs, more so on my left than my right because my right's not as bad as my left. And he had me, I have like a curvature of my spine, so like basically like a normal spine is supposed to be like almost like a slight S shape. Mine is quite curved, so like it's almost like this. So like if this was your back, mine curves inwards like this. So he had me try and flatten my back to the bed, so like pulling my pelvis in and pulling my stomach in, and then basically doing a sit-up with my hands across my chest. Unfortunately, it was painful to say the least, because my body is not designed to move in that way or anything like that, because my back just physically can't be straightened like that. It's not that type of back, so it's not designed to be straightened like that. So yeah, that was painful. So I had to do that a few times, which was annoying, but it was the only way he could see whether my ribs were dislocating and sliding over each other and whatnot. So he confirmed that I have pectus extravagum, which I already knew, which basically means that my sternum, instead of being here, is basically here instead of being down here. Obviously my sternal bone still goes down there, but the bigger part of it is here. My ribs are quite bruised today because he had the wand on it pressing quite hard yesterday, so I'm in quite a bit of pain today. Not that you could tell looking at me, but you know, you get easier to hide it. So yeah, he basically did the left side before he did the right. He noticed that my I've got quite a few abnormalities with my rib cage. So basically an average set of ribs, so like you have a pair on each side, so yeah, you have 1 pair, 2 pair, 3 pair, so forth, and the average is roughly 12. However, some people can only have 10 pairs, some people may have 12 pairs, some people can even have 14, but the average is roughly 12. I personally only have 9.5 technically. So my 10th rib, instead of actually starting where it's meant to start, so imagine my fingers and my ribs, so imagine this is like 7, 8, 9 and 10, right, of my rib cage. So I have technically 10 ribs on both sides, out instead of 12, and where these are kind of like this and kind of going across each other, like it's supposed to, and it's supposed to have an even curve going all the way around, mine doesn't. So instead of having that even curve to go all the way around so they're all in level with each other, mine does that till about 9, and then my 10th rib, instead of being like close together. So say for example it was these two, so say for example your ribs do this, I'm trying to work it out, so instead of your ribs just curving like this like it's supposed to, my 10th rib is like almost like that. So my 10th rib is so far around the back of me here that it's not physically seeable on a scan. You can see it, but only just, because instead of being round and keep going round until you get to the back where your back meets together, my 10th rib is probably only half of what it should be instead of like the full length of what it should be, so it's very hard to see. So that's one abnormality I have. 2, my 9th rib is shorter than it should be as well, but not as short. It's probably 3/4 in length, so it doesn't not have that nice curve round, it's kind of bobbly, and it is sliding out of joint. But my 8th rib is the worst. It's kind of like it's sliding over my 7th, it's sliding over my 9th at times as well. And when I explained to him that just before Christmas the middle part of my chest here, but just as it starts to curve, was really painful towards Christmas, it's almost like my sternum basically dislocated. He was like, it was your 8th rib. So basically your 8th rib is basically shooting up instead of doing what it's supposed to do. He said, you're extremely hypermobile. As soon as I laid down on the bed and he asked me, and he was basically just like checking the ribs out, just breathing, he could see that I was extremely hypermobile with just breathing. So he was asking me questions like, you know, do you get a lot of inflammatory problems like costochondritis and things like that? And I was like, yeah, like I get tons of it. And he was like, yeah, like I can totally see that. He asked me at one point not to let him know when I was in pain, and I was flinching a little bit, and he was like, I told you not to let me know when you were in pain. I was like, I'm really trying not to, but he could tell I was in so much pain just by looking at the ultrasound. Then he did the right side and noticed that my right side is starting to be problematic, but it's not as bad. He noticed that there's a whole heap of muscle wastage on both sides. However, my left side is very little to non-existent. So there is so much damage to the left side of my rib cage, which is probably not helping my lungs, to be fair, with my asthma. But my rib cage is basically, there's no muscle on the left side, and if there is, there's very little of it, which is causing a lot of problems because obviously there's nothing really there to hold the ribs in place. He did notice that when I was kind of pushing my back to the bed and pulling my stomach in and then doing a sit-up, the movement was reduced, but the ribs were still slipping, but it was less than what it was if thingy. So he basically told me that I would need extensive rehabilitation. I need to build up muscle and core strength, which is very difficult considering I have gastroparesis on top of my EDS, and obviously I have a lot of problems with my hips and everything else, so exercise is very difficult. So he said that could prove problematic given all of the other problems that you've got going on. And obviously I'm due to have a jejunostomy tube surgical consultation soon to see whether I need a surgical tube placed, which would then obviously make abdominal muscles even harder to get and kind of exercise them better. So but he said I need extensive rehabilitation for that. He's also recommended possible steroid injections into my actual rib cage, especially on the left, to make sure that that can help with the nerve, like blocking the nerve endings, because what happens is every time my rib basically dislocates and slides over, it is basically impinging on nerves, which then causes immense pain. So the idea of the steroid injection basically reduces the scarring, which reduces the nerve pain as to hurt as much. Now it doesn't happen, there's excruciating pain originally when you have a steroid injection apparently into your ribs, and then eventually that eases off and then you find relief. Because he knew that just by putting a wand on me, like for the ultrasound, I was in excruciating pain. So he was like, you need something to kind of counteract that, so maybe a steroid injection. I explained to him that I've had arthrocentesis done on my jaw and that they did steroid injection into that, and obviously they're only short-lived and they don't last very long, and how I've had arthrocentesis, I've had a arthroscopic steroid injection before, and that did nothing into my hip. So he explained to me that a hip is a lot deeper than your rib, obviously, and therefore it's harder to get to the right point of where the pain is. He knows where the pain is in my rib, so he can tell exactly where to stick the injection. But he's hoping to contact the doctor that referred me for the scan, who's based in Middlesbrough. He's hoping to message him, explain to him that this is the situation, these are the findings he's found, these are the things that possibly need doing, extensive rehabilitation, need a lot of physio with my ribs, need to try and build up some core muscle, but obviously having gastroparesis, that's going to be difficult. So I'm going to need intensive rehabilitation, and I might need steroid injection, and to possibly do that steroid injection on NHS rather than do it via private, because obviously to have an injection done privately it's £550, and obviously that costs too much. So I'm hoping that after I've seen this other doctor privately first, he will take me on as a NHS patient, and then I could probably just go to my local GP to get the injection, but it might have to be him that does it. But if it's him that does it, then I'm hoping he's going to take me on as an NHS patient to do it, because I really physically cannot afford to keep going private all the time. I do have a GoFundMe page set up in order to help with medical costs, which I hated setting up. I don't like asking people for money. It's not why I originally started doing these pages. But obviously a lot of the things that we have to go through with EDS and stuff, you have to fund yourself. And I did initially set up a GoFundMe page sometime last year. I didn't let it go live until I think it was January. So no, beginning of February I let it go live, and I'd set it up in the middle of last year. But I am trying to fund everything myself. Like, I've had one person donate £20 to my GoFundMe page, and my appointments are like £400 or £500, so I'm basically funding that myself at the moment. But I can't keep funding everything myself. It's just too much money to do, so that's why the Fund Me page is there. I will link it below in case anybody wants to be generous, but you know, if you can't donate anything, don't worry about it. It's not why I set up these pages or why I set up the idea of vlogging in the first place. It's not why I did it. So, but you can share it for me if you like, so that it can spread around. But I'm not in this for money, like, at all. So I just thought I'd let you guys know that. And but yeah, I will tag it below. I've also tagged my Instagram below, in case you want to DM me anything, or you want to ask questions about where I went, who I saw, and yada yada yada, especially if you're having problems with your own ribs. We had to go from where I live all the way to London, which is like a 4.5 hour drive, and it's a long journey, and I was a bit frustrated because my appointment yesterday was originally at 4:30, and I didn't actually get seen till 5, and then I only had 20 minutes for my scan, so I didn't really get a chance to sit and ask the doctor questions. I didn't get to sit and ask him what his findings were, what his abnormalities were in a nutshell. He basically just gave me a bit of an overview, and then told me he was going to write to the doctor in Middlesbrough, and then that was it. That was me gone. So for the sake of like 5 hours journey, like there and back, so that's 10 hours, like between 9 and 10 hours of driving for my brother, who's my carer, to get to and from London for the sake of 20 minutes appointment. I was a little bit dumbfounded by that. Ideally I had been booked in for an hour slot, so he couldn't even do a full examination on my right side or anything, but he did see quite a significant quite significant damage and abnormality to my left rib cage. So I'm in a lot of pain today. Like my hips are in a lot of pain because obviously I've sat down for like a long time yesterday just to get to the appointment and home again. And then obviously he had me doing the exercises on the bed and everything, which where I had to pull my pelvic backwards so that my back was flat against the bed and my stomach was pushed in just to do a sit-up, and he had me do at least 10 or 15 of them, and that was very painful, especially for my hips, because it's not this kind of position my back naturally goes into. I have to physically force it, so it causes a lot of pain. So I'm in a lot of pain hip wise and rib wise today, but yeah, it was a good appointment in a way. I have asked for him to send me the report as well, just so I have it for my own correspondence. But yeah, you know, it was worth going, but it wasn't as good an appointment that I should have had, really. But yeah, the doctor was very bubbly and very nice, and he was asking me questions and talking about my EDS diagnosis and everything. So it was a good appointment in that respect. He was very good at listening and being attentive, but a very painful appointment, and I found out things about my ribs that I didn't know. And like I said, my 10th rib is pretty much, there's no point even having it apparently. So yeah, I'm a little bit messed up with my skeletal bones and stuff, which is a bit of an annoyance, but it is what it is. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk to you guys about today. So that was my findings yesterday from my dynamic ultrasound. I have obviously it doesn't help the fact that I have gastroparesis and I'm not getting the nutrients and stuff that my body needs, which means that my muscles are constantly wasting more than body fat, which is annoying because it should really be the other way around. So yeah, that's not helped matters, and it's not likely to help matters in the future either, but I definitely need the nutrients back to start building the muscles back up. And I can get back to doing my aqua classes and stuff like that again, because that will help. But basically my body is muscle wasting away, which is not a good thing. So anyway, I just thought I'd let you guys know how that went. My next appointment is dietetics, to go and see the dietitian on the 28th of April, so I'll let you guys know how that goes and see if my muscle mass has dropped from 8.8 down to anything else. And yeah, I will just keep you guys posted. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. As always, you can ask me questions below or on my Instagram, and I'll be happy to answer them. I will not be mentioning any doctors' names or anything like that on YouTube. If you ask me underneath here, I'll be asking you basically just to message me on Instagram as a DM if you want doctors' names and things like that, because I will not enclose the details on a social media that is public. So yeah, if you want that information, you'd have to DM me on my Instagram, like I said, which is message below. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it interesting. I found it interesting, but then I already knew my body was messed up, so it wasn't really much to kind of go off. But yeah, thank you, and I will see you soon. But yeah, you got 2 videos for the price of 1 this week, so hopefully I'll be back on soon. Take care. Bye.